G'day everyone, Carl here with another morning walk on KZPT audio. Today I'm going to be walking with Jaxon, someone that I've been following for a little while now. He's a personal trainer out of Hammer's Gym in Nunawading, Melbourne, and I have to say, for a 20-year-old kid, you have to say is just incredible. At the size and the strength that he has. And so essentially what's been happening with me is during this time, obviously a lot of gyms have been hit by this pretty hard, and what's been going on. So I've been working alongside Hammer's Gym with a couple of other personal trainers to try and deliver something that people can do at home. There's going to be some nutritional advice. There's going to be a lot of home workouts, home exercises you can do, a lot of Muay Thai stuff, which is what they really specialize in, from anything from mixed martial arts to Muay Thai kickboxing. It's actually quite an incredible setup and quite an incredible gym, to be honest. And yeah, so they've been working really hard to get some awesome stuff out there to, I guess, give to people that are going to be struggling during this time, and just to keep some personal trainers and gym instructors and everyone in a job, basically. It's God knows what's going to happen from here. So it's really awesome stuff. This is where I met Jaxon officially. I've seen him around before that, but this was the first time I actually got down to sit and talk with him, and yeah, just incredible. We did like a 10-minute talk just on nutritional advice for the Hammers at Home workouts, and as soon as we did that, I knew that I wanted to get him on and have a chat, because for 20 years old, he knows exactly what he's talking about. And to get the size that he is and to get as strong as you are, you have to know what you're talking about, and you have to be practicing what you're preaching. So I hope you enjoy this. Hopefully it's insightful, and yeah, let's get it. My man, he's made it in.
All right, you there?
There he is. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Yourself, mate? How you been?
I haven't been too bad, man. Just ready for the morning walk.
Yep, same. Just getting those daily steps in.
That's the stuff. All right. So I just gave you a pretty good intro just before you jumped on, but just hearing it from yourself. So basically what I was saying was, yeah, we met pretty much yesterday officially. I saw you a couple of times before that, but we were able to have a little bit of a training session somewhat together. Not that I was keeping up weight-wise at all. Yeah, we got to sit down and have like a probably 5-10 minute chat for the Hammers at Home workouts, talking nutrition, talking just a couple of strategies that people could take on board. And yeah, as soon as we sat down and did that, I just knew we had to get you on board and pretty much tell people and open up that conversation of how people can feel their best, look their best, and anything that you're doing at the moment that can help people out.
Oh, well, I'm very flattered, Carl. Thank you for definitely having me on the podcast today. Really appreciate it as well. So yeah, it's been great to really go a bit more in depth about everything now as well. I really can't wait to get into it.
Absolute pleasure, man. Look, let's start off with your age, which is where I really want to start at, because that's just mind-blowing in itself. And along with some of your biggest lifts that I was seeing yesterday.
Yep. Currently right now, I'm 20 years old, turning 21 in a few months. But
Beautiful.
Born in 99, so I've been training for a fair few, not a fair few years, maybe 4 to 5 years right now. But with my current heaviest lifts, if we're coming from a powerlifting standard, I have a 172.5 kilogram competition bench, a 300 kilogram deadlift, and a 290 kilogram squat. We were very close to that 300, but I was just maybe about a couple of centimeters off depth. But look, it is what it is. So, I could always come back to that if I'd like to. But, right now, it's really good to get back into the bodybuilding train, I guess.
Okay, awesome. So let us go down that path because so you've competed in powerlifting and bodybuilding. So
Yep.
bodybuilding was first, I am correct?
Yes, it was. I got into bodybuilding around the age of 16, just by seeing all the magazines with, typical Arnold Schwarzenegger. Also, there was another specific one with Branch Warren, and I remember seeing him, and I thought it was just incredible to see people have that much muscle mass in their frame after years of dedication and working incredibly hard. And it really inspired me to, to give that a go and really sort of push past something that is, almost thought to the general population almost impossible. And definitely this is a very long-term sport, but within itself,
Absolutely.
it's a great sport to get into, even though it's not the easiest, So yeah, it's really good to get into bodybuilding first. I really loved the competing aspect as well, and it sort of made me get that itch, after doing powerlifting again. Really wanted me to get back onto stage, getting leaner, enjoying the whole process within itself just a little bit more than the reward. But yeah, it's great.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think when it comes to bodybuilding, and I guess powerlifting to an extent as well, it is such a long process that you really do have to enjoy that more than the actual end result. So from there, if you had to pick one from here on in, was powerlifting something that you just got into as an off-season thing for bodybuilding, or did you genuinely want to go down that route? Which would you say you enjoy more?
Well, pretty funny story. I sort of actually got roped into powerlifting, not in a bad way, but
okay.
In a good way. Basically, started training out of Pro Raw Gym a little bit as well. It was sort of new, so my friends decided to say, hey, come to this gym. It's also a bit of a powerlifting gym. We've got a lot of weights, really good equipment as well. I'm like, okay, let's give it a go, see how it is. It won't do any harm just having a one session there. And it eventually led up to having my old powerlifting coach, Matthew Prokak, check him out at Airy Strength. He's got an incredible team, great people, and he's an amazing coach within himself. Basically, he just came up to me and said, look, basically gave me some form cues, open your hips, knees out, brace before each lift, and bang, I was, PBing at the end of that day. And I just wanted to get the 300 kilo squat, 300 kilo deadlift, see how I'd go over that off season, because I actually originally wanted to compete this year. But I got so in love with the intricacies of powerlifting within itself that it sort of really wanted me to keep on, lifting heavy compounds. I love that whole motion of how, consistently it's about the technique patterns as well. Even though bodybuilding, of course, has those, notions that you can focus on, but I really love that whole area with powerlifting, how, it's 3 movements, incredibly basic, but it's so in-depth and it's so specialized and personalized to each individual.
100%. And you're looking at each individual limb and each individual position and trying to optimize it in the best way possible. And you know what, I think that the actual techniques themselves, they may not be optimized for hypertrophy, to actually get as many muscle fibers that are working, but, just getting used to putting that much weight underneath or on top of your body, I think is, and I think it really sets a good foundation. And I think that's why a lot of people, well, I guess the more successful bodybuilders do focus at least a little bit of their time in the powerlifting scene. So what was your sort of your weights before actually stepping into Pro Raw Gym and working on them there? What were your numbers looking like before that?
Oh, they weren't looking very good, Carl, I'll tell you that. Well, the thing is that I never actually had a specific coach when it came to strength training or movement patterns. I originally, though, came across the actual sport of powerlifting through one of my friends, Victor Isophides. He used to be a IFPF world champion in the sub-junior class. And originally through him, he loved talking about powerlifting, and I started to get into it as well. And, so through there, that was also another method on how I enjoyed the training. But when it came to my previous lifts, I was sitting around maybe like 140, 150 kilogram bench. So nothing too impressive for my lifts. But I was 19 at the time, had maybe like a
Yeah.
230.
I think a lot of people are laughing at you right now. That's crazy, man. That is crazy.
I did have a very strong squat, but the problem was that I didn't know how to hit depth. So I think that if it came to real depth, I probably had a 240 squat sleeve. So I wasn't that, impressed with anything. And with the deadlifts, I was at around 280 kilos, 270 on a power bar. So it's almost like a stiffer version of a bar, not like a deadlift bar.
Yep.
But yeah, so the thing is that it wasn't about, just jumping up incredibly in weight each week, even though we were doing that to see how far we could really push it. But when it came to the squats though, I jumped up from my very first session of Pro Raw was 260 kilos. And 3 weeks later, we're at 295 kilos squat. No, 292, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
That's just mind blowing. I love that stuff. So going forward now, so obviously we were talking yesterday and one of your main goals now is the Arnold Classic of 2021. Am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
Awesome. So going from here, you're looking at about 12 months out roughly.
Yep.
Are you going to be doing a little bit of a hybrid training program? Are you just going to leave it all into the hands of your coach? How hands-on are you with the programming aspect of it?
Well, definitely. I still love implementing big compound movements into bodybuilding. I think that regardless of who you are, I think it's a very good staple into your training. Again, everyone is very specialized on how they train, what's best for them, how they respond well. But for me, my body grows incredibly quick when it comes to doing big squats, heavy deadlifts, and also heavy bench press. But I've sort of moved away from doing heavy flat bench press, more so moving into like an incline, as it benefits more my clavicular insertion, so basically my upper chest. But when it comes to this, I think that you don't have to do them every day. You don't have to do them every week. But I was told by a great bodybuilder that, you don't need to be strong to be a good bodybuilder. But if you're strong, it can make you a great bodybuilder. And that was something I'll always remember throughout my whole career of this sport. But,
that's a great line.
Yeah. So with classic physique though, it doesn't really matter too much on strength. I'm not too worried about that anymore. I'm just, we'll see where it takes me. But right now, when it comes to training, I'm really happy that I've sort of developed a good staple with strength. But we'll just see where it goes over the next 12 months. Also with the off season, yeah.
100%. And you know what? I guess now strength doesn't have to be your main focus as far as putting more weight on the bar every single week, but building up that foundation beforehand and actually being able to put the weight on the bar anyway. Like, for example, I saw you yesterday, 180 kilos for 13 reps, 14 reps?
Oh, something like that. I think it was like 10 or I don't know. I sort of lost count.
Well, either way, it looks awesome. So now I want to go back a little bit and talk about what, so obviously you would have started when you were about 15, 16 getting into training. Was there anything in particular that, what made you get into it? Was it, purely friends based and a little bit of peer pressure, or did you find it yourself and absolutely loved it?
Well, it's incredibly strange actually, because again, it's it's sort of something that sort of came out of nothing. It was completely random. It really started with me absolutely loving football, Australian football, AFL, footy. I was playing TAC in Oakley Chargers, which is sort of like a rep squad. Basically, through there, I wanted to eventually play AFL. I really, really wanted to play AFL amongst the best players in the country. I always loved that type of sport, and I developed myself pretty quick. I got very tall. My aerobic capacity increased. And I really just enjoyed the whole point of kicking goals and all these kind of different things. But when it came to eventually towards the end of my career with that, I was around 16 at the time, and unfortunately, I just stopped having a love for the sport. I always wanted to eventually go to America and actually play American football. So I always loved that whole notion of coming to, American high school and, playing NFL there, or, eventually playing like NCAA college, which would always intrigued me. So it originally started with that. And then after that football was done, at the end of 2015, I started to get into weights, and I had a home gym, and I probably should have kept it now. But with the home gym, it was about up to maybe $13,000 worth. So we had a lot of machines, heavy dumbbells up to 50 kilos. We pretty much had the whole thing. But when it came to that, I started getting like, you know, big compounds, deadlift, squats, bench press, all those different movements, overhead press, the snatch, the clean, all those different really big compound 5 basic movements. But it originally, you know, sort of to lead on to that, when I became very strong pretty quickly, I was progressing really well and I loved my training, and eventually started with seeing Hammer's gym, and I'm like, this might be a good gym to start out of. And unfortunately, parents were a little bit reluctant at first. You know, 16-year-old coming straight to a brand new gym and, you know, doing something incredibly different. They weren't very supportive of that, but over time, you know, when training was going really well, they eventually started to become very supportive. So I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, so pretty much from football to American football, then to weights, then to bodybuilding. So yeah, very strange story, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, wow. Well, look, I guess like being 20, is NFL, AFL completely off the cards for you now? Like, have you actually lost a love for it, or have you just sort of seen that you're, I guess, more proficient and you can grow so easily, so that would be something better to get into?
Well, I think that with football, AFL football, my passion sort of deteriorated a little bit, because I feel like as if almost that, you know, I wanted to do what made me really happy, and I found that long term, I wanted to do something that overall would benefit me a lot more. And I found that with football, it wasn't really something I'd agree with, but something more so that I just did as a hobby more so. But over time, developing into
and the injuries, man.
Yeah, definitely a lot of injuries occurred throughout that whole time. But you know, I was very grateful. That was almost like a stepping stone for me. And you know, because when things end, it doesn't mean that, you know, your opportunities close. Like there's a saying, you know, one door closes, 10 more open, pretty much. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, awesome. Well, look, I guess being where you're at the moment, and we were talking a little bit about it yesterday, you know, one of your main goals now is to actually get over to the US. You actually went over last year for the second time, and was training at Gold's Gym, and, you know, with a lot of actually incredible...
Yep.
Yeah, so only a few months ago. Yeah, go into that a little bit. So the kind of people that you met over there, what sort of training you were up to, because that looks pretty awesome from your socials.
Yeah, well, basically decided to go to America again, as I have a, you know, fair few friends I developed over there just through training, also at Gold's Gym. And, you know, I really enjoy going to the country. I love America so much, even though I do love Australia just as much. But, you know, I always found that in terms of my career, I always wanted to move to America. As, you know, bodybuilding is incredibly large there, but doesn't mean that bodybuilding can't get, you know, incredibly favored here as well. But, you know, I always enjoy going over there, you know, going to California. Love the food. I definitely love In-N-Out, so I'm a big sucker for that. But basically, you know, I've got a few friends over there. One of my friends, he actually competed at the LA Fit Expo, which was the Muscle Fest contest, and he placed first in overall for his classic physique. So now he'll be on a qualifier also for nationals. So basically, when you win nationals, you win your pro card, which if you win overall. But when it comes to also some other people I train with, also train with my other bodybuilding coach, Kirk. He is an incredibly great guy. He also helped out Sergio Oliva Jr. a lot on his career a few years ago. So, you know, Kirk really knows his stuff. Very knowledgeable guy. A lot of education when it comes to him, and a lot of high volume, hard workouts.
As most bodybuilding ones are. Yep. And how do you find the difference between the two? Would you say you prefer one style like powerlifting training over bodybuilding training? Do you just see them as completely different entities? What would you say you enjoy more as a human?
If it really had to come to, you know, just like completely one different side of training, overall I'd probably implement more high volume. Because I think at the end of the day, bodybuilding is more focused around volume. You know, it's not about lifting as heavy as you can all the time. You know, especially when it comes to that, I really like to jump in and just, you know, take the weights by the reins and just really go balls to the walls with that kind of that kind of training, I guess. Instead of
especially when you're surrounded with sort of people like that.
Yeah, of course, you know, and I think it's a great vibe, and you know, you get really good pumps, especially from high volume. You know, even though you do with heavy lifting, but you know, at the end of the day, I find that you know, it's not easy to lift high volume. It's very, very difficult for a lot of individuals to keep up with that type of training style. But, you know, I really feel like that overall, at the end of the day, long term, it really benefits hypertrophy and bodybuilding.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think at the end of the day, you know, there's a couple of things that can make muscles grow and actually create that hypertrophy effect, but you know, volume has to be there and muscle tension has to be there. So, you know, and I think they feel really good, and I think a lot of people should. I don't think enough people really focus on that side of things. You know, especially now with a lot of group fitness training coming in, things like F45 and things like that. I think they're great for people to sort of get into the habit of exercising, and they're great for people that are looking for fat loss.
Yeah, of course.
But I think something that's missing from that aspect of training is the muscle tension, and obviously that volume on actual specific muscles to make them grow. So, you know, I think there's a bit of a disconnect there on what those sort of classes can provide.
Of course, I definitely agree with that. You know, because again, you know, it's incredibly specialized, and you know, everyone's different individuals, so they can respond to different types of training stimulus, as well as, you know, different types of foods. So when it comes to, you know, those both kind of training styles, I think it's good to really experiment with both and see what works for you, because I think that our bodies are always changing and evolving, you know, in this day and age. So I think that it's really important to take a hold of both of those two when it comes to programming for yourself. Really making sure that, you know, also regardless of what you're doing at the end of the day, though, it comes down to intensity, which is such a big key on your determining your rate of change, you know. So yeah,
absolutely. How important do you think intensity is in the gym? So for example, if you have two people lifting the exact same weight, so let's say you and I go in there and, you know, I'm putting 120 kilos on the back, which is, you know, like absolutely killer for me, but you're lifting that same weight and we go up at the same progressions, but for you that intensity isn't the same. How important do you think that is for muscle growth?
I think intensity at the end of the day is, you know, what separates the champs from the chumps. And, you know, not to be, you know, very hard on what people think, but I think that at the end of the day, that's, you know, such a big factor that determines a lot of individuals on their rate of progress. Again, like I said earlier, with, you know, with hypertrophy, muscle growth, also fat loss. But I think that when it comes to intensity, in terms of, you know, if you have another individual that either lifts more or can lift less than you, I think that, you know, regardless, you know, even if you want to train with your girlfriend, you know, at the end of the day, you can still match up the same intensity techniques, just, you know, having different changes in variables like loads, amount of volume on sets, also frequency, you know, you can change up a lot. But at the end of the day, I think that intensity is so key, because, you know, a lot of people go throughout the gym being on their phones, having a chat with everyone, you know, for 20, 30 minutes. And I think that at the end of the day, that's not really going to benefit you, you know, because your days are numbered. And at the end of the day, what are you going to be great with? What are you going to be happy with? Are you going to be happy that, you know, you half-assed it in the gym every day, hanging out with your friends and, you know, having fun? Or you can still have fun, work your absolute ass off, work balls to the walls at the end of the day, and be so happy and content with yourself that you know that you've done everything at the end of the day when it comes to those weights.
Absolutely. And you know what, like I really believe that, you know, it's more than just the physical adaptations that happen when you're focusing more on hard sets rather than just getting the volume in. You know, I see too many people follow a lot of programming and just, you know, finding things online where they say, you know, it's 3 sets of 10 and then it's 4 sets of 12 and then it's 2 sets of 50. You know, they're really rigid, and I think people get really stuck in that and finish that set on that 15th rep, even if they have like another 30 left in the tank, because that's what someone's telling them to do. And, you know, one of the things that I really try and preach when I'm taking clients on, or when I'm just talking to people in general, is the hard sets is what's going to change the body, you know. So if you're getting closer to that failure point and, you know, you're sweating and you're pushing really hard, not only is it going to create better physical adaptations, but I think the emotional adaptations to that, and actually pushing through and persevering and finding where that failure point is, I think that creates a lot of character development. And I think you know, you can get so much more out of, say, a 20 to 30 minute workout focusing on that, rather than being in the gym for like 2 hours and, you know, just going through the motions.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. You know, intensity is such a big factor on determining, you know, your intensity and your rate of growth as well. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, utilizing 30 minutes, with a higher intensity is much more efficient than utilizing, 2 to 3 hours of, slacking it and half-assing it when it comes to training. And I think that, when it comes to those final sets of failure, that really can determine, again, a chance from the chumps. People who don't want to do it, people who suck it up, get it done, regardless if they like it or not. At the end of the day, you've got to follow what you're told to do. And, you've got to really push further on that 1%. That really defines you, of, what you're capable of as well. Because a lot more people are capable of, a lot more things in life. And they think that, when it starts hurting, that's when you're done. That is completely false. And I think that when it comes to bodybuilding,
that's when it begins.
Definitely, it's a big mindset factor that a lot of people need to change, which, it's not a bad thing to have that, when you're younger in life. But I think over time, you got to understand is that it's like a hard-boiled egg, when it comes longer under heat, longer under pressure, it hardens. That's how we are as humans as well. I like to use that anecdote, I guess. But I think that at the end of the day, man, intensity is such a big key. So that's why I really love doing that high volume workout as well. Because you can also whack in, a little bit of heavier load in there as well, just a little bit, but not much.
If anything, man, it takes a lot of balls to put that amount of weight on your back and trust yourself to get it back up. I think that's just as much intensity and builds so much of the character, and allows you to put so much more intensity into the lighter weights because you have trust in yourself.
Yeah, of course. And I think that especially, when even doing like heavy incline press, like you gotta have the I guess the mental belief and willpower to know that regardless of what happens, when that weight comes down, you're gonna bring it back up. And that's the power of positivity, optimism. Not of course being an idiot, throwing on 300 kilos on a bench press and expecting to lift it first go, but really pushing just that 1% a little bit further than what everyone else will do. Really challenging yourself is we don't like to do that these days, unfortunately, anymore. And I think that I really like to look back on the 90s, 80s, and 70s of the fitness industry and realize what they try to do is that they always try to challenge themselves when they made it fun. At the end of the day, it's of course about enjoyment.
100%. And you know what, they all talk about when you go back and listen to the interviews of Ronnie Coleman and some of these really, really big dudes, a lot of them weren't really tracking as much as what today's people are. They barely knew how much carbs they were getting in. They didn't even know their calories or how many sets they were doing. They were just going balls to the wall, and that's what got them where they needed to be.
That's why the 90s is an incredibly great era, especially for bodybuilding and powerlifting as well.
Oh, 100%. There were some amazing people that came out from there. Watching the documentary for Westside Barbell, that sort of stuff is just gnarly, man.
Definitely. I really enjoy the quick lifting era of America. I think that that type of mindset is you got to be a little bit crazy, a little bit obsessed, but I think it's good at the end of the day, because you're really pushing yourself to do what the majority would not do. And I think that I have great admiration towards any powerlifter, any bodybuilder, anyone in the fitness industry that's willing to challenge themselves, especially as well.
Yeah, 100%. And look, so from here, what I really want to deliver as a part of this podcast is some practical help to people that are training from home at the moment. You've been blessed, and I guess we've both been blessed in a way that we're going to have some form of access to heavier weights and the compound lifts. And, our training won't necessarily have to change too much, but there's going to be a lot of people out there that have been stripped off their daily routines. They don't have any equipment whatsoever. And now they're frantically trying to get a hold of some kettlebells, some resistance bands and little stuff like that. What tips would you give to someone that's going to be training from home to maintain as much muscle mass as possible during this time? And I guess, if you have any tips as well for people that are trying to still, stay on track and lose weight as well during this time.
Yeah, of course. And I think that when it comes to training at home, especially when, you're faced in this time of crisis and these issues, is that, even emphasizing on body weight workouts, bands for resistance are incredible. They have really, really good kinetic pressure that you can have, and it adds great resistance to the exercises that you're doing as well. And I think so also at the end of the day, utilizing almost any types of weights, regardless if they're heavy or light, you can definitely, get really, really good training in. And I think that making sure though, at least 3 to 5 times a week of training, Maintaining, also increasing your daily steps and cardio, like these morning walks, especially to increase your amount of food that you can ingest into your body, keeping your protein incredibly high. 1 to 2 grams per pound of body weight, especially, is very, very efficient as well for muscle mass growth. But I think though that having a limited access to equipment at the gym, even just getting up to 20, 30 kilos in dumbbells, not even that, getting some bands, but also emphasizing on a lot of body weight exercises, because I think that at the end of the day, we neglect a lot of that. And I think that that's a big staple in also determining hypertrophy as well. So, I really think that taking on those key different things, are very, very, essential in understanding, that we can build muscle mass at home, because, that's where I started. I started at home, even though I had a lot of exercises for my availability. I started off with body weight squats, pretty much body weight deadlifts on a bar, so with my own body weight, and also just dumbbell pressing from the ground, even floor pressing, a lot of resistance band movements, getting around your back, laying on the floor, chest pressing, because on the way up in the motion, eccentrically, you're going to increase a lot of kinetic energy and force. So, you're still going to get a good pump at home.
100%, and everything you said there is pretty much bang on, in my opinion. I think for most people, I think they're a little bit worried that they're not going to be able to put the same weights on the bar, and they're going to be losing a little bit of muscle. And there is a motivation factor that I want to get into as well. But if we're talking specifically sort of physical right now, I think people are forgetting that, like I said, it's about muscle tension. And I see so many people that can bench press, over 2 plates, but their push-up form is still not like bang on, and taking that time, taking, the next whatever time we have, whether it's 2 months to 6 months worth of, having restricted equipment, taking that time to actually learn how to do, all the different variations of pull-ups, all the different variations of push-ups, and doing that, I think people are really underestimating just how much growth that can really bring.
Definitely. And I think that because everyone these days is caught up with, the weight of the load or the amount of reps that you have to do, or even the tonnage at the end of the day. But, again, it's about intensity. 30 minutes, 5 times a week can still maintain a lot of muscle mass, and you can actually even build more muscle mass and hypertrophy speaking. So, really don't underestimate the power of bodyweight workouts, especially, and also using little weights, because at the end of the day, it's bodybuilding. It's not powerlifting. If you're still doing powerlifting, you can even maintain loads, working up to, sort of a heavier load if you have that availability to the equipment. But at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. Right now, maintaining muscle mass, seeing what you can do at home, utilizing what you can, So I think that at the end of the day, there's a saying from Charles Darwin, is that, the ones that survive are not the ones who are the smartest or the most intelligent or, the strongest. It's about the ones that can respond best to change. And I think that responding to change is the biggest key that we have.
100%. Adapting to these times is what's going to get people through this. And holy crap, that's a loud lawnmower. Hang on. I think the people that are going to be able to adapt during this time, and this is the conversation that I'm trying to have with a lot of people, right? It's, look, during this time, your goals shouldn't necessarily be the same as what they were when the gym was available. People are so locked up and be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to be able to train, and they're freaking out. But I'm like, hang on a minute. You have to go back to the reason why you trained in the first place. There is a million and one ways to get to the same goal. And, if you come back to the raw reason to why you train, it's going to be very easy to manipulate the variables that we need to continue that goal. Well, so from here, what I really want to go in now is sort of you personally, because at 20 years old, you were telling me yesterday that your max weight was 130 kilos. That's pretty much where you got to?
Yep.
That's incredible. So I want to go a little bit more just into your specific macros, and sort of how much you had to eat to maintain that weight, and sort of how fast it's dropped off since taking that switch from full-on powerlifting, going back into the bodybuilding side, how fast that drops, what changes you made to your food, and then we're going to start wrapping up, right?
Well, technically it was around 130 kilograms end of day, but I was sitting around 128. In regards to my food intake, I was definitely eating a lot. I was eating around maybe along the line of around 7,500 calories a day. So the meal frequency was incredibly high as well.
Far out, man. How many meals?
They'll spit out about 8 to 9 meals. So I get up pretty early, go to sleep pretty late. But
Wow.
I still, hit around 7.5 to 8 hours to sleep a day. So with that,
Wow.
that was around America. So I was just after my powerlifting meet. I decided to just sort of have a bit of fun with my training, implement a bit more volume, sort of get back to the whole notion of bodybuilding again with pumps, and also just really enjoy the copious amounts of food in America.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and in response to change with that, I think that at the end of the day, I started also increasing my daily steps. Because during my time, I unfortunately did not really do much cardio. So in that regard, definitely keep up your cardio, guys. Your daily steps are incredibly important, regardless, not even just for, not even getting leaner in regards to just general overall health for your heart, your cardiac ability. So I think that with also those two different factors of, increased intensity with training, not just in terms of load, but, volume, and also, squeezing, time under tension, all that kind of stuff, kinetic stress on the actual muscle itself, and also increased with daily steps, being out all day, resting a lot, especially as well, and getting a lot of food in. I think that, I dropped, over the span of around 6 weeks, I dropped about 8-9 kilograms of body fat. So, dropped down to, low 120s, high teens in the body weight, but it really worked though efficiently, so it's really good.
That's incredible. And so when you go to compete in the Arnold's, you're looking at doing classic physique. What is your estimated weight for that competition?
Well, in terms of estimated weight, right now we're just trying to see how much body fat we lose. So depending upon the ability to see how long we're going to do this off season for as well. But making sure we're putting on lean muscle mass with a much more leaner body fat percentage. But for next year for Arnold's, we're hopefully looking around 104, 105 kilograms. So that's roughly completed, also with weigh-ins. But right now, we'll see how that goes in the intricacies of what we take under throughout this year. But right now, we'll see how we go. So right now, I'm around around 116 kilograms. So I've got another 5 to 8 kilograms of body fat to lose, and we'll definitely reach single digit mark hopefully. So yeah.
100%. Very nice, man. And look, I think no matter what happens from here, watching the way you lift yesterday, and just, I guess, seeing the overall symmetry of your body, there's not really a lot of weak points there. So I think as a classic physique, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun there, man. Wrapping up now, I'm gonna have one question that I'm gonna ask all my guests at the end of this podcast. And what I really want to know is from you is, if you had one piece of advice for people to look and feel their best, what would you tell them?
In pretty much one sentence, got a lot of things I'd like to say, but I'll try to keep it short as possible. I definitely think that at the end of the day, it comes to your mindset. And I think that your mindset is the biggest factor determining how your life, in terms of the outcome, can be applied. I think that, always making sure that you're positive and being grateful for the things that we aren't every single day, waking up, being grateful for 3 things in our life at the end of the day will make us more of an optimistic person. And, I think that at the end of the day, being optimistic is, what separates people also who are champions from, people who don't make it very far in their life. And, so I think that when it comes to your mindset, it's such a big factor on determining how everything goes in your life, because, you can also agree with a lot of other bodybuilders and also, individuals who don't, partake in fitness, in other areas of life. Positivity is the biggest key. Believe in yourself, because trust me, everyone is more accountable for what they think they are. Everyone's more capable than what you think you are. So I think that at the end of the day, always know that you can make a positive impact to this world, and regardless of what happens, always make sure that you're stronger than what happens to you. Because I think that, maturity, again, with that little corny quote, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. So, that's probably the best piece of advice I definitely give to, you know, a lot of the people listening on the podcast today.
That is beautiful, man, and I couldn't agree more. You know, I think people get really caught up on numbers on the scales or numbers on the bars, but at the end of the day, you've got to remember why you're doing this. And for the people that succeed in this and, you know, get the body that they want and feel the way that they're looking for, it's the people that are optimistic about it, and it's the people that love doing it every single day and they're happy to be there. The people that drag their feet into the gym are never really going to get the full effect of what they're after.
And I think that, you know, also again at the end of the day, it's you know, about the people that you impact. And I think that at the end of the day, you know, there's so many people in this world you can impact and you can help, you know, regardless of, you know, race, sexuality, you know, interest in anything, hobbies. I think that, you know, regardless of what you do, you have a gift and you should give it back to others, you know, and make them be the best version that they can be, you know, regardless of how hard it is. I think at the end of the day, the whole point of, hi, how are you? Just kids at the park. Just having a walk. Basically, and I think that people as much as we can is such a big key, you know, when it comes to this game in fitness. You know, because there's going to be a lot of people that, you know, are going to say, hey, you know, you inspire me by lifting weights. And, you know, the last thing I thought I'd ever do is, you know, help people by doing something I love doing. But at the end of the day, that's what makes me love it even more, is that, you know, there's so many people out there that, you know, I love to get into fitness because it can change your life. It really can. And, you know, it's something that you should always do, you know, train until you die. That's, you know, a great saying I like to also have, you know, within myself. But yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, man. And look, one of the biggest advice I tell people, because I understand as well, for a lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they've already created that habit, right? You know, they're already, you know, doing their morning walks. They're already, you know, taking that time out to find ways to exercise because they already love it. But what a lot of people have is people in their lives that they are trying to convince that this is the way to go and this is the way to do it, because you feel so amazing when you train and when you're taking care of yourself. And what I tell those people is essentially the only way you're going to get people to do it is to lead by example and to do it every day and love it and let the results speak for themselves. And I think that goes a long way for people. And, you know, once you start to see people get on board and you get those messages that are like, hey, like you've genuinely helped me and I'm doing this now and I'm loving it, you know, that's when it all becomes worth it.
At the end of the day, it is, you know, it gives me so much happiness and fullness to my heart knowing that, you know, at the end of the day, you can help people. And regardless of who you are, you know, you are inspiring someone without even knowing it, you know. You have a lot of secret fans, trust me, at the end of the day. And I think that, you know, it makes me, again, so happy that, you know, we can universally come together, you know, within this fitness industry, even from bodybuilding, powerlifting, you know, any sort of type of sport within the fitness industry, that, you know, we can all universally have something in common, and that is working hard and helping people, you know, achieve the best they can.
Absolutely, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I'd like to say thanks again to you, Jaxon. Absolutely unbelievable having a chat to you. I just want to remind everybody again and just give the stats because they're still blowing my mind just talking to you. 20 years old at 130 kilos at his max weight, squatting 290, deadlifting 300, and benching over 150 kilos. I think that's just unreal, man. And I can't wait to see what happens to you in the next few years, because that's a promising future,
I really
bro.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me on this podcast.
No worries, my man. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. I will speak to you soon, my man. I'll probably see you on Sunday over at Hammers Gym filming more Hammers workouts.
Man, I can't wait to do the hashtag Hammers at Home. So everyone stay tuned for that as well. Can't wait to see how we go with that.
Lovely. All right, man. I will speak to you soon.
Awesome.
Have a good one,
mate. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Bye-bye.